Diane Abbott's piece on Sunday about racism needs to be seen in the context of the article that it was attacking. And it's a very simple article. The article appeared in The Guardian last week, and it's by a person called Tomiwa Owolade. It says, racism in Britain is not a black and white issue, it's far more complicated. And while it acknowledged that in a strict understanding of racism, skin colour is important, it also pointed out that many Irish people, many travellers, many gypsies, many Roma, and a huge number of Jewish people have even today experienced racism. Black Caribbean people, for instance, are more likely than black African people to say that they've experienced racism, nearly 50% of black Caribbean people, and more than 30% for black African people. But then it goes on. Remarkably, the survey found that 40% of white Irish people reported experiencing some form of racist assault in their lives. And further, that Jewish people and Roma. Morally speaking, racism is a black and white issue, but when it comes to how it manifests itself, it is multidimensional. The most comprehensive survey on racial inequality for nearly 30 years needs to be examined comprehensively. And this is what Diane Abbott was objecting to. So her attempt to pull back and say, oh no, racism is far more comprehensive, and indeed that's what she meant, that the letter that was printed was the first draft and she hadn't revised it, is complete tommy rot. She meant exactly what she said. Otherwise, the letter has no meaning. The only reason the letter would have any meaning in a revised form would be to agree with the article, in which case, what's the point of writing? And while there are people on the site who point out that that somebody who is white cannot possibly know what it's like to be racially abused, that flies again in the face of the content of the article. So it's that article which is the key, and without that article, the letter that Diane Abbott penned in the first place is almost meaningless. Her apology is meaningless, and the letter itself is as insensitive and as anti-Semitic as it was perceived to be. It's not changed. It's not changed. And while people have experienced racism in different forms, while I fully acknowledged that it is disgusting that anybody should be expected to sit at the back of the bus or should be judged on the colour of their skin, so too we need to acknowledge that 6 million Jews were judged on their background. And somebody just pointed out on the comments, completely wrongly, that Judaism is a religion, not a race. For people to say this again, it borders on anti-Semitism, but it basically is a statement of a lack of knowledge. And it's very important to recognize there are many Jewish people who do not subscribe to the Jewish religion, but would certainly consider themselves to be Jewish, and more than that, Hitler would have considered them to be Jewish. And they would have been sent off to concentration camps had they been in Europe during the Second World War. So I don't tolerate this sort of confusion and nonsense. And I salute the article that was originally in The Guardian, and in much the same way that I utterly condemn Diane Abbott.